One of my favorite things about being a blockchain developer is that there's so many different ways to make money with these skills. Of course, you can get a job, become a freelancer, but you can do all this other stuff like, launch your own NFT project, build a trading bot, do advanced DeFi strategies. And in this video, I'm going to talk about another way that you can monetize your blockchain skills, to the tune of 6 figures, maybe even 7 figures and beyond. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to master blockchain step-by-step start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. All right, so let's talk about another way to make a lot of money with your blockchain development skills. So this is with Bug Bounties. So what is that? Well, you can see an example here on my page from OpenSea, the Seaport contest, where they're offering developers $1 million to try to break their OpenSea contracts and steal money from it. So a bug bounty is basically a scenario where somebody says, hey, we have this thing that we suspect could potentially have a security vulnerability, and we want you to try to find it as a developer, and we want you to disclose this to us, and we're going to pay you for doing that. And we're just going to have an open, contest so that anybody out there who can find it will just pay you for it. And sometimes these rewards can, be $1 million plus, just like we see here, and even higher. Here's one for $10 million, $6 million, $5 million, and then on down the list, even plenty that are in the several $100,000 range. So how and why does this work? Like, this kind of sounds too good to be true. Well, think about it. You have all these different blockchain-based applications that are powered by smart contracts, and many of them hold hundreds of millions of dollars inside these smart contracts. And so basically, they just don't want really smart people to go out there and steal this money for them. So they're definitely going to be willing to pay a developer who could save, $100 million plus 7 figures just to keep that from happening. You would do that every single day of the week. And particularly just to prevent these developers and give them some incentive from, stealing it themselves. And there's plenty of real life examples of this happening, some of which I've recently covered on my YouTube channel, like the wormhole bounty that paid out $10 million to a single developer who disclosed a vulnerability in their bridge contract. Or like this example that happened last year, I also covered this on my YouTube channel, of Samsung, who made $1 million in a single day by saving $350 million from an exploit in SushiSwap. So what's the skill that these developers have, and how can you learn it? How can you apply it? That's going to be the subject of the rest of this video. Well, it's security auditing, and it's one of the most lucrative specialties in blockchain development because, you have the ability to determine the fate of millions and millions, sometimes billions of dollars of user funds. And it's also one of the biggest bottlenecks for new projects, hitting the blockchain, because every single major production smart contract that's going to get deployed live to the blockchain needs to have security auditors look through it and make sure that it's, okay before it goes live. So this is a massive bottleneck. These people are in insanely short supply. So you can make a lot of money with security auditing that way, but you can also make a lot of money as an independent security auditor by finding these security vulnerabilities for contracts that are already deployed into the wild. So how can you make money from it? Well, you can basically do bug bounties like I'm talking about. Or you can become a security auditor that basically checks smart contracts before they go on chain. And you could be that as an independent person, or you could work with an auditing firm. So let's talk about actually finding, bug bounties or finding bugs out there in the wild, because this is, an opportunity for people to, make money outside their job, right? So you can do this a couple different ways. One is you can look at websites that list the bug bounties, or number 2 is you can literally just go look at DeFi or NFT smart contracts or anything on the blockchain that, takes user funds in some way or interacts with user wallets that could potentially compromise user funds. And then just see if you can find any vulnerabilities. Even if they don't have an audit listed, you could just potentially reach out to them and see if they would settle with you, for disclosing that, honestly. So if you want to look for existing bug bounties, you can definitely look at Code Arena. Okay, that's who listed the OpenSea Seaport contest that I was talking about here. Again, OpenSea is like the biggest NFT trading platform across the entire blockchain space. And of course, they're going to pay a hefty reward for developers who could potentially find vulnerabilities in that contract, because the number of people that trade on OpenSea and, the amount of NFTs that could potentially be at risk whenever they launch that. So another place where you can find these bug bounties is with ImmuneFi. Okay, so this is a project that actually retweeted one of my tutorials I did a couple weeks ago. I did a video on how to hack smart contracts with reentrancy. I'll talk about that here in a minute. But anyway, it's not a sponsored video. This right here is not a sponsorship or anything like that. They literally just retweeted my video and I checked out their platform. I thought it was pretty cool, so I wanted to share it with you all as a good resource. So they're Web3's leading bug bounty platform, protecting $100 billion in user funds. So they essentially connect platforms who need audits with, people who are searching for these bug bounties. Okay, so you can see examples of like the $10 million bounty here, $5 million. You can go explore all the bounties. Of course, not all of them are that high. Some of them, there's still plenty in the 7-figure range. There's lots and lots and lots in the 6-figure range. Okay, deep 6 figures. Well up into $1 million. You can just go down this entire list and see examples. So example here, you can just see click on view bounty for balancer. So it's been live since May 12th, 2022. So no KYC required. So if you're an anonymous developer, you could still probably get paid in crypto. Maximum bounty, $2.4 million. Okay, so basically, let's talk about the rewards by threat level. Okay, so a critical bug is this much, high is this much, up low is this much. So it's not all the complete $2.4 million, but they have different, amounts based on the amount of funds particularly at risk. And this one in particular, it's for smart contracts themselves. Which brings me to the next point. How do you actually learn the skills in order to do this? Well, basically, I'm going to focus on auditing smart contracts right now because you can see there's different types of, bounties listed here. But the main one I would focus on is smart contract because A, it's the most lucrative, it's got the most money behind it. And B, it's right at the core of the skills that I teach you on this channel. So that's the first thing is if you're going to be a security auditor for, blockchain smart contracts, then you need to have a strong mastery of the actual programming languages themselves. So in this case, that's going to be Solidity for Ethereum smart contracts. So it goes without saying, you need to be able to write your own Solidity smart contracts in your sleep, understand all the aspects of the programming language, basically be fluent in it. Okay. But the next step on that is you build this extra skill of being a security auditor. So how do you do that? Well, it starts with just changing your mindset and thinking like a bad guy and literally thinking like, how would I try to steal money from this if I possibly could? And then going through the steps to actually do that. And now you're not always going to have this like light bulb aha moment. Sometimes you have to see what other exploits have done in the past in order to, understand what's possible in the future. So like I was saying before, I put out a video on my channel about reentrancy attacks. This is one of the most common ways that smart contracts get hacked. So go definitely check out that video if you haven't already. That's going to introduce you to a common security vulnerability. And that's going to kind of open your mind to see, oh, that's why you don't want to do this in your code because this is what could potentially happen if you implement this pattern. Okay. And then once you know that, you could just go looking for that in other smart contracts. And then you could look at other security vulnerabilities that happened in the past. And then once you figure out why that one happened that way, now you have another sort of pattern to recognize in your brain. And if you can see that pattern out in the wild, then like, boom, you've got that. It's sort of like if you're a developer already and you've ever like coded traditional applications and you understand how to spot like SQL injection or something like that. It's like, oh, once you get that it's possible, you know how to spot the problem in any application. So you can actually see a list of past exploits that happened here in 2021, actually published by ImmuneFi. Okay, they talk about some of the biggest exploits and the total amount of money that was compromised here. It's like $40 million. With CNA or $11 million with Wi-Fi. And so you could even use this as a starting point to see, okay, how were these particular contracts exploited? What's the post-mortem report on there? What were the specific vulnerabilities? And how can I learn a new pattern out of real smart contracts that were just recently exploited to go see if that's, exists in any other contracts out in the wild? All right, so another way that you can learn this is through a set of challenges published over at damnvulnerabledefi.xyz. Okay. So basically, this is sort of a sandbox environment, a playground of challenges that illustrates a lot of different security vulnerabilities with these scenarios. And you can actually clone this repository. There's a link on here where you can see the different, contracts, okay, that correspond to each example. You can look at this, Puppet, all right, Puppet pool, and then see the challenge inside of here. And what it's going to do is each of those scenarios is going to essentially illustrate what the vulnerability looks like. And then basically you can code out a solution to each challenge in a separate JavaScript file. And then you can try to run, the challenge here to see if it works. And if the challenge is executed, then it'll pass. And this is going to give you a good introduction to different, real world security vulnerabilities that smart contracts are facing right now. All right. So now another thing I want to talk about is why this is such an important skill to have, even if you go after this opportunity and let's say you don't land, a really expensive bug bounty, right? Because you might be thinking like, hey, I can go try this, but there's no guarantee that I'm going to go out and land some massive amount of cash. Why do I want to spend all that time doing that? Well, another reason is if you learn this stuff, it's going to greatly increase your value proposition in the blockchain space. So, if you want to become a security auditor, you could definitely do that, right? And you could be paid to work at an auditing firm, even if you're not, yourself personally, raking in $1 million bounties on a regular basis. The other thing is, even if you don't want to work as a full-time, security auditor, if you're just going to be a blockchain developer, then a strong understanding of, auditing best practices is going to increase your value. Because the last thing somebody wants to do is code smart contracts and then get them ready for, either their supervisor or their auditor or whoever, who's a blockchain developer who's got all these like security problems with their contracts. Okay. So the more you know about that, the more effective that you're going to be in the workplace, and that's going to increase your value as a developer. And you can command a higher salary because ultimately that's the time savings of not having to redo things if there's problems. And so there's a huge limiting the downside risk. Let's say you go down this and you learn about security auditing this way. And honestly, it's the best way to learn. Like the best way to try to learn something is to try to learn it to get a potential reward. And even if you don't get the reward of having this massive payout, like you're going to have this skill that's going to make you valuable in the workplace. That's the whole point. And you're never going to learn security auditing probably unless you go try to do something yourself. All right, so that's an overview of bug bounties in blockchain and why this is such a crazy opportunity for developers. Again, blockchain is one of my favorite fields of software development because there's so many different ways to make money with the skills. Of course, you can get a job, become a freelancer, you can build your own bots, launch your own NFTs, and you can go after these bounties, which have a massive upside. That's an overview of how to get started, how to learn the skills, and where to find those bounties. So I hope you like this video. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so the more people learn about blockchain. And if you want to get your hands dirty right now, start learning these skills so that you can go after one of these, then definitely go to my YouTube homepage, find those free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, I can show you how to become a blockchain master step-by-step from start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.